All right, we got some young DJs on here that's not quite as fly as you, but can you tell them why you the man that's known to always wear white and don't care about people talking about don't wear it after Labor Day and all that other stuff?
Right, right, right. How you guys doing? Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
Here, hold on one second.
Personally, I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
Can't complain, man. Can't complain.
All right. Yeah, well, let me just say some of the people that's on here tonight. I didn't I'm gonna promote this later on social media and YouTube. I just got a few people in here. So I don't get nobody come on here, and we've had Zoom bombings before, but where crazy stuff happens. Anyway, got DJ Punch who does a YouTube show. I'm gonna say does a show here and on YouTube every Monday night called Mixaholic Mondays. It's what do you call it, Punch? Where it's no holds barred. You can talk any way, any whatever. And then
it's a great show. This is a great show on Monday nights that we do 5 years running. Glad to have you here.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Then we have Manny Faces and his partner here, Rush was in here a minute ago. They have what they call Throwdown Thursdays. They're part of the both of these guys part of the Fleet DJs network, and they do a lot of stuff themselves with their shows and also with the Fleet DJs. Then we have Paul the Funky Skunk on here. He's from Indianapolis, Indiana. He's
okay.
He's done a lot. And then we have Michael J. Calhoun, co-founder of the legendary group The Daz Band, now doing things on the Kinsman Daz Band. So that's what we have tonight. I read your bio earlier, so I'm going to get right into the interview. Tell us a little bit about growing up, like leading to you getting into the music industry.
Yeah, so grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Used to watch the Daz Band all the time. We were fans of the Daz Band and Cameo and all that. Just that out there. But I used to, come home from school every day and sing to the radio and learn how to sing to the radio. My mom never knew that I could sing. When she went in the room, I would stop singing. And so years went by and she realized I could sing. But so I started off as, in high school, junior high and high school, singing in a group. And then I decided, after high school, I went to the Marines for 3 years. And so when I left the Marine Corps, I came back home and decided, it's time, I think I want to move to Hollywood. So I didn't know anyone in Hollywood, went out there, took a chance. And, as initially a songwriter, then I ended up getting a record deal with Uptown Records, which was Andre Harrell. And that's where you had your guy, your Jodeci's Mary and Father MC Heavy D, some of the best groups ever. So I was on that, had the pleasure to be on that label, left that label and went to a label called Rough House Records, which was the Fugees and Criss Cross and Wyclef and, all the greatest over there. So that's what brought me into the music world from those experiences as a singer in a group. Group was called For Sure. So like the number 4 and then SURE. And it's crazy that 35 years later, people calling me from all over the world saying, can you send me a cassette or see that album? The album it still sounds great when you hear R&B, good R&B. So it's a chance, check it out. So that's kind of, I slid into the music business in general and moved to Hollywood as a writer, then turned into an artist and manager, producer, and now, movie producer, liquor business, and all these other great things that God has blessed me with in my journey.
Definitely understand that. You mentioned a lot of names of people I know. Like I go all the way back with Andre Harrell, back with I've been in the game for 52 years now. I go back Andre Harrell with Jekyll and Hyde.
Wow, that's when when he was an artist. That's you going back.
Yep. Then he was vice president of Rush Communication with Russell Simmons. Then he started Uptown Records. So, I had been knowing him a long time. Actually, I have a story you might have heard about. Did you hear about the time that Heavy D and them got robbed at a
I
concert?
did hear about it.
Huh?
I did hear about it for sure.
Yeah, well, I was the one that got them all their stuff back from that event. They got the equipment back, the clothes back, everything back.
Wow.
And loaded the limousine up because I had them booked for 2 shows on I think it was Sunday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1988, I believe, and it was in Lorain, Ohio, and Youngstown, Ohio. 2 shows booked. So I didn't want them to cancel the show, so I had to do what I had to do. I had to put my gangster hat on and go ahead and take care of business. That's how I got on there.
There you go. There you go. That's history. That's history.
You mentioned a lot of people in your bio that you work with. I mean, you have an amazing, resume and bio. But one thing I noticed in general is of course, we know, the people that you mentioned. Matter of fact, I want to mention one guy named Max Goose. I remember hearing that name back in 2004 when I forgot who he was working with back then. I was in Tampa in 2004, but I remember hearing that name, and he was doing some amazing things I know back then. So I can just imagine, like when you hooked up with him and y'all worked together.
Yeah, he had a label with Sylvia Rone at Elektra Records, and so at the time he didn't have any artists. So I was working with, discovered and managed a girl by the name of Adina Howard. So she had a big record, Freak Like Me, Freak in the Morning, and Freak, big record. So he was the label behind her. I was the management behind her. We became really good friends. So that era that you're talking was probably, he was the A&R at Epic Records. He discovered B2K. So B2K was the group that he had discovered later on after, because I was in, Adina Howard was like 92, 91, 92. So the era you're talking was probably more of a B2K. And then Beyonce, he was co-managing Beyonce with Matthew Knowles, probably around that same time. So that's Max.
Yeah, he was doing some amazing things. And just what you mentioned. I mean, amongst other things, like I said, definitely recognize so many names that you mentioned. Go to another name here. Well, you already talked about Sylvia Rone a little bit, but what's the biggest thing that you respect about Sylvia Rone? Just like I respect Sylvia Rone, being one of the most powerful women in the music industry. What is it about her that you really like?
Yeah, like you said, she was Black and female executive back in the probably the 80s, actually, and going into the 90s, and still. So she was just a powerful Black executive female, and you didn't have that many back in that era. And so she was very powerful. She ran Elektra Records and went on to run Universal, and now she's at Epic. So all the stuff with Future and Travis Scott and all that stuff, that's still at her. So she's like, I think Sylvia's got to be about 76 or something, still the most powerful Black woman in the music business in history. So, yes.
You remember a lot of them back in the day, they even had like an organization, I forgot the name of it. I think it was NABFME or something like that. National Black Women Association or something, music industry, music and entertainment. I remember the lady from Def Jam that was in charge of it at the time.
Tina Davis?
No.
Before that. I
can't think of it. But anyway, it was because I remember I went to one of the meetings. I was the only guy at a meeting they had up in New York, and probably was doing the one of those things up there, one of those conferences would be up there every year, just like how you have the Urban Network and all that. It was something like that up in New York. But it was the big it was the big one. But so now how did you work with these people, then you started your own thing. So what's the transition from dealing with all these amazing major labels, the artists and stuff, and then doing your own thing?
So, coming from an artist, and I think Michael Bivins, he probably never knew or never will know, but Michael Bivins was what inspired me to show me that, without him knowing that he was inspiring me, that you could be an artist. He was with, BBD at the time, And he started, he found Boys and Men, he found ABC, and he started finding these artists. So it let me realize, I could be in a group and still discover other artists and manage and run their careers. So I started with Adina Howard, and then from there, um, she was so huge at that time. And it's crazy that, 32 years later, uh, a whole new generation of Adina Howards are inspired, which is the Lottos and the Glorillas and the Sexy Reds and the Cardi B. That was her in 1992. So, coming from that, and then a company out of London called Notting Hill Music Publishing, they were trying to do a publishing deal with me to sign me up for my ability to write and produce. And I said, I don't really want to do a deal. So they're like, well, why don't you build us up in America and work for the company as a consultant? So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was like, okay, I'll do it. And my first signing was Will Smith, when he was on fire, doing 10 million albums at a time. And then Nelly and Michael Jackson and Beyonce. I started signing these great things, and it pushed me into the publishing business. And then, so in both managing and publishing, after becoming an artist, obviously. And then 25 years later, I was still with them. And I was like, why am I doing this for them? They're making millions and I'm making, hundreds thousand. So I could do this for myself. So I left them and started my own. So now that pushed me into having my own publishing company, which is called Who's Harris Music Publishing, and my own catalog company, which I just did a deal with Rodney Jerkins maybe 2 years ago. I mean, 2 weeks ago, excuse me. So we did a great little, $6 million quick little something for him, for that. But so that kind of motivated me to, and actually Tim from Tim and Bob was my first experiment after leaving such a big company. And Tim from Tim and Bob, they did They Don't Know for John B. and I'm So Into You, Tamia, and Thong Song for Cisco. They was on fire. So I did that deal, which motivated me and my team to start doing other deals. So pushed me into having my own publishing company and that. And so from there, my cousin, who's a female movie producer, director, was like, why don't you come join the family? And I'm like, okay, why not? And so I'm the president currently of her movie and television company. And everybody's like, how do you keep up with all this? But how did you get inspired? But my inspiration came from, I would say, Russell Simmons first and foremost, and then Andre, because Russell you got to remember, he had Def Jam Records, Fat Form Clothing, Def Jam Communications, and he funded the Nutty Professor movie, and so he's doing all these other things, and the Rush Card, and all these other great things. I'm like, wow, so you can do more than one thing as an executive. And Diddy came behind that, of course, with Bad Boy Records, Sean John Clothing, and I'm like, wow, okay. So that motivated me to get into being able to know that I could do more than just one thing. So now when I do the math, everybody's like, it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm like, I'm not bragging, but as a writer, a producer, then an artist, and become a manager, then a music publisher, to a film producer, and I also just started my own liquor brand called Dizzle, and that's where I'm at now. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, promoting that, and it's a new liquor, black owned, with some partners that I did that with, a guy by the name of Mike Dizzle, and then my partner Chris Roker, who's from the music industry as well. So we have our own liquor brand. It's like a tequila, cognac, Grand Marnier with mango. So it's like a real sexy Long Island iced tea, 80 proof. Everybody seems to like it. It's a unique taste. So I just my hands in a lot of great things, and I gotta say I got that from school of Russell Simmons basically, and so that's kind of like in a nutshell.
That was my next question, is that what did you basically learn from being around? Well, first let me just do Andre Harrell, even though I know that you was on the label, but was there anything in particular that you learned while you were there to help you in the future?
Yeah, Russell. I mean, Andre was they call him Mr. Champagne Bubbles. So Andre just had so much swag, and he was the first person to introduce Black people that you could drive a Rolls Royce, and you can go to the Hamptons and have a party right next to white America and still live the life. And so if you look at his roster, whether it was a I mean not fat, but big guy, heavy D, he still has swag, the suits and So everybody, if you know, is Mary. You know, everybody was stylists. So he was a very trendsetter when it came to everybody on the roster. Jodeci, they had their own style of dressing. They had their own personalities, and so I think I learned that, you know, it was almost like a modeling agency of great artists. And so I think I learned that you could have swag with being running a label, make sure your artists look like superstars before they even become superstars. And, you know, so I think I learned that from him, that, you know, how to really, you know, mold an artist into artist development. They don't do that these days, but artist development back in the day, you know, if you notice, everybody from Jodeci to Mary to Father C to Heavy D, they all were very styled and very seasoned and very artist developed, so I say. So I learned that from Andre.
I hear you. I hear you. Speaking of Uptown, Jodeci and Boys the Men, as I recall, I think they came out around the same time. I actually saw them at the Impact Conference when they first came out in New Jersey. And, you know, Boys the Men had on like the, you know, college sweatshirt type guys, you know, like what they may have been in a fraternity or something wearing a sweatshirt, so from a college sweatshirt. And then Jodeci with, you know, with the pants pulled down or whatever or something, you know, just streetwise. So I mentioned the two of them because it was interesting, because Jodeci just immediately took off from doing some shows. I don't know if they pulled their pants down or what they did, but the women went wild, and the rest was history as far as their situation.
Yes. And that was the thing. We were signed to Uptown to sing. We signed a week after Jodeci. And Andre was like, you know, I can't have two of the same kind of groups. You know, you got to be, because Andre's thing always molding people to be like, in his eyes, Mary was his queen of R&B soul, Aretha Franklin, young Aretha, you know, and then Jodeci was his bad boys. You know, these are the bad boys. So we were like, you know, we want to be bad boys. You know, I think y'all should be after 7. I want y'all to be like my Young Temptations after 7. Like, not want to be like, we want to be the Wild Boys. Like, can't have two Wild Boys. So we end up being more like a after 7, more smooth dance step R&B kind of group. And so yeah, but I think, yeah, like you said, Andre was a visionary. You know, he was a super visionary, and a lot of people came. Guy, you see, Guy, they was always stylish and always wore the right clothes, and you wanted to be them and wear what they wore. And it's good to see that all these people are still around, you know, today. Mary J. Blige still doing it, you know. And my manager at the time was her manager, Kurt Woodley. Kurt Woodley's a legend in the game. He worked for Uptown, but he also managed Mary, he managed Jeff Redd, and he managed us. So he brought all of us to Uptown.
I remember that name, Kurt Woodley. How about, what was the like the road manager's name? Steve something?
Steve Lucas.
Yeah, Steve Lucas. I knew him as well. Like I said, I had a lot of, you know, things going on with Uptown. Russell Simmons, what did you learn from him that helped you in the
Russell? Well, Russell was the reason why I wanted to be in the business of music, not so much as a singing artist, but I like, wow, I want to be him one day, because he's business of music. So, you know, the fact, again, like I said, you know, he had the Def Jam Records, the Fat Form Clothing, Def Jam Comedy, you know, so he's franchising the brand into all these other different areas. And so that's what, you know, motivated me to be, I can do the same thing. That's how I'm doing the liquor. I'm doing the publishing deals. I'm doing the record deals. I have my own production company. I have a live streaming company that streams concerts all over the world, 200 countries simultaneously, like a pay-per-view fight, but it's more a live concert. So he taught me that you could be an entrepreneur. You can do more than one thing.
What year did you start the liquor brand?
Liquor brands, this is our 2021.
The reason I asked that question, because a lot of guys that started early, they just cleaned up, like just immediately becoming millionaires, almost billionaires. The ones that got in there real early. That's why I just asked you the year. You know, like
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But
they
I mean,
say
it's
it
never
only
too late. Don't get me
they,
wrong; it's never too late to do it. But I'm just saying, the ones that got in there early really made some noise.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they say, you know, liquor business is tough, which it is, and you only have a year and a half, maybe 2 life expectancy of whether you can do or die. You know, if you're still around after 2 years, you made it. If you Most people don't last, but we 3 years and 7 months. So we still at it. We're in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, we're in Arkansas, we're in Los Angeles, we're here in Kansas City, my hometown. And now we're about to go into New York and Miami. So we're expanding, and we also have cans as well. So we expand into the small cans with sangria and Dizzle on the beach and Dizzle Mango Rita in a can. So we're expanding our brand into other things, obviously. But it's a tough business, you're right. It takes a lot of money and patience.
Yep.
And so then it's a very racist business. So
oh my God.
They don't really want us in here. They don't want us in here.
Oh.
You know.
That sounds real interesting and messy. So what was the main thing that you got from Sylvia Rome, being around her, being as amazing as she is all these years?
Yeah, that you could be, a female executive, and she was, very, her signings, Missy Elliott, and Vogue, Brandy, she was consistent with her signings, and she's very powerful at the time. And I learned also from her the value of time. People want to come to your office and have meetings, and they want to sit there and talk your head off for 2 hours and play every song they ever wrote in their life. And she taught me, Livio, time is money. And one time I had a meeting with her about Adina. I flew to New York for the meeting, and we're sitting in the meeting, and I'm talking to her, and I'm trying to go with my notes of all the things I got to get off my chest before I leave. And I'd say it was probably 5 minutes into the meeting. So next person. I'm like, hold up, I'm not finished. She said, Livio, you're gonna learn. You gotta get to it. You gotta get to it, because I have 50 other managers and 30 other artists and managers, and everybody wants to meet with me. If I sat here and met with you for 20 minutes and met with everybody for 20 minutes, I'll be here till 4 or 5 in the morning. So she taught me the value of what they say, elevator pitch. When you're on the first floor, and you go into the third floor, anything that you're trying to get across, you got to get it out before you get to the third floor. So it was more like taught me the value of, get in, get it off your chest in minutes versus trying to explain a long, drawn out story, and just get to it. So she taught me that, time is money, time is valuable. If you're trying to get something across, do it within minutes, not hours.
Yeah, by the way, the Def Jam executive I couldn't think of was Johnny Walker, female Johnny Walker.
Yeah, Johnny Walker. Yep, Johnny was powerful.
Yeah, she's in Memphis now, working with the city, I think. I actually visited her back in 2009 or 2010 in Memphis. She was doing something for the city, and doing a lot of big stuff down there in Memphis.
She was powerful. Yeah, Vivian Scott, which Ray Chu in the band, that's her husband now. But yeah, Vivian Scott. It was a few females, but yeah, Johnny Walker. Yeah, I remember Johnny very well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the one's name that was at Polygram. That was a nice lady too. I remember meeting her. That was like over that Polygram. But Sylvia Rome outlived everybody and became stronger. She was the GOAT of that.
Yeah.
Of that situation. Yeah. Sometimes it just made me wonder, was the other people are just like put you in a position like a token or something, the way they came and would come and blow up and then disappear. I didn't think about it then, but just now looking back on it, it's like, wow, look at all these powerful women I met, Polygram, this one, Def Jam, this one, that one, whatever. And then they gone, It was just odd, it seemed like.
I think they probably didn't really want that many strong women to be in it, and they got in there, and then, as soon as they could get them out of there, probably was their thing. Like, we got to get, this is a man's game in their mind. But, I mean, Sylvia is still here. She's still Tina Davis, who ran Def Jam for years. She's still here. She's at Empire. She's like the president of Empire. So she's still here after all these years, over 30-something years with Tina Davis. So Sylvia's got to be like 50 years in this game.
That's hard to believe. I started in 1973. And, I'm from retail. I opened my first store in 1975. Exactly 50 years ago. Yeah.
So my guy George Daniels.
Who doesn't know the GOAT of the GOAT of the retail industry, George Daniels, but also it's a company up there in your area where I work with us They have mostly, I think it's something vinyl up there in your area. Vinyl something or something vinyl.
The list is vinyl or vinyl.
No, I'm talking
Vinyls.
about a record store up in that area that was famous, and I think they're still open. They have mostly vinyl, and the name is something vinyl or vinyl something up in Kansas City or up in that general area.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's crazy. This goat is the goat. It's funny to me, not funny, but crazy. He sought me out to make sure that I was in his documentary. So he's just finished his documentary about his life. It's incredible. So he was like, "Yo, get Livio. I need Livio in this." And I was like, "Wow, of all people." But I did the documentary, and everybody you can imagine was in the documentary. So he just finished, I think, maybe a couple months ago. So I think it's if you Google George Daniels documentary, it probably come up.
You remember what was his name? That had the record store I think was Delicious Vinyl. No, wait a minute, not that one. Royce Fortune, I'm thinking about. You remember Royce?
Oh, Royce, yeah, Fortune,
Royce.
yeah.
I used to love going to visit Royce. He used to make me laugh because I would go there. I mean, you know Royce, how Royce is, right? So I would go there, and he'd be like, "Yeah, Kermit, come on back." But I would see people coming in from the record labels. He'd make them wait an hour before he talked to them. I was just so honored that he would, that treated me so nice. I really miss him.
Yeah,
great guy.
Yeah, I had the opportunity of meeting his daughter, Lisa Royce.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa Fortune, excuse me. So his daughter, she's a boss just like him in the industry. So young and got her father's ways. But yeah, Fortune was a big on Crenshaw, right there on Crenshaw.
Yeah, I think it was. I think he worked at Motown before or something. And
yeah, I believe so.
But what he was famous for, and when people talk about is, oh, Magic Johnson comes to his store. That's what people used to say back in the day. Magic Johnson go there.
That's crazy. Yeah, man, a lot of history, a lot of legendary stuff. Like I said, I'm 35 years this year in the game and still hanging in there. But just my transition was always to do movies and television, and it actually fell into place. So I still do the music stuff. Obviously, that's gonna always be there, but I put the music in the movies now. So it's just.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Sync licensing and all that stuff.
Yes.
Let me just say this: of the names, I know when you're doing like the deals and stuff with these different artists, like you said, as far as the catalog and different things. But what's something interesting you can say about some of these people that I'm looking at, like Beyonce, Destiny's Child, Eminem, Outkast, Nelly, Michael Jackson, Will Smith, Pussycat Dolls, DJ Khaled, Meek Mill, Madonna, Justin Bieber, Travis Scott, Lil Wayne. What can you say interesting about any of them or dealing with their music or whatever?
Yeah, no, they all as you see, they're all everybody you name them superstars. They're not stars anymore, superstars. So my relationships to them was I was working for Notting Hill Music Publishing, and my job was to go out and find, who did the music for Beyonce, find that producer, whoever wrote the lyrics to Thong Song, or whoever wrote the Michael Jackson's, who produced Michael Jackson. So my job was to run around the country and find who wrote for Eminem or who produced Eminem. So that was my day to day, and I would go find these people. And it's a guy by the name of Robert E.S.T. Waller. He used to be in a group called 3 Times Dope. He had the Gumby. He's one that had the Gumby hair, and I didn't realize like, oh, he's a rapper, and he turned into an incredible songwriter. That wrote Beyonce's first album, Me, Myself, and I, Naughty Girl, and all these great hits. So I, tracked him down, and he's about to do a deal with a bigger company. And at that time it was Big John at Warner Chapel. And so we kind of intercepted them and like, look, we can give you your check tomorrow. You come in here, we give you more money and give you a check tomorrow. And that was our thing. Go talk to Livio because they cut checks fast and they get it done. They'll give you more than everybody else. So I ended up, people would start bringing me the Beyonces, and I wrote 2 songs on Michael Jackson, or I wrote Thong Song, or I wrote, Chris Brown's new hit record. So I would go and sign, Nelly Air Force Ones, and Pussycat Dolls. That was CeeLo Green. I did the deal with him. My friends, we all tracked him down and did the deal with him, and he did the Pussycat Doll record called "Don't You." The Pussy was their biggest hit. He wrote and produced that, and so I signed him to the company, and that's how I get the credits for all those names that you see, because they were either them personally wasn't signed to the company, but the person who wrote the hits for them or with them was. Well, I signed those people up.
Well, what an amazing list of people and what an amazing career.
Yeah, man. Still at it. I'm 61. I'm like, wow. Thought I'd be retired by now, but music business. It's like look at Clive Davis. He's 80-something years old. He's just like he finally said, okay, I'm just bow gracefully. But 80-something, 86, I think, Clive Davis. So it's a business. It's like it's not an age thing. I guess if you love it, you love it.
Well, since you've done everything in the industry, from growing up to to being an artist, whatever you did before the artist and what you're doing now, what did you seem to enjoy the most, even though at different times of your life, what did you actually enjoy the most?
I would say initially it was management, being able to find somebody, dust them off, put them in the right studio with the right music, and give them a good image, and then to see them go number one. Dina Howard and people like that. That's initially. Now it's tough. Management is, if you talk to anyone, you want to manage this act? No. It's like the word is no, because not everybody's, it's just not a lot of loyalty there. So I'm not saying with every artist, because I do believe there are some artists that are still stand up and they not. But if you look at the history of it all, you find an artist, you make them a superstar, and by the time they get to the second album or the third album, you're fired. They got a new manager. They moved on, and so it's kind of like, damn, I'm building these artists up to, not me, but there's a lot of people they build these artists up to become superstars to leave. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, again, I always tell people, I said, I don't think everybody in the world is not like that, but if you look at the statistic, 99.9% of the people that had management on someone is no longer with that artist. The rock and rollers stay strong and humble. Like, you have what's my guy name? He owns Giant Records, and he managed the Eagles and still with them over 50 years. He had, Color Me Bad and all of them back in the day. But he's, he's still got, the Eagles. So a lot of the rock artists, they stay humble and they still with the same managers. For some reason, when it comes to urban artists, it's like, it's kind of crazy. It's like, hey, make me a star, and you make them a star, and then there's always that other person that comes in the room and say, I can do better, I can do bigger. You can stay with him, but if you come with me, I can get you in a movie, I can do this, I can do that. So then instead of remaining loyal, they're like, man, he said he can get Beyonce on my record, or he could get me a Coca-Cola deal tomorrow, so they'll bounce. And it just makes it to where people feel like, I don't do management. Like, I mean, not just me, I hear it all the time. But so to answer your question, is probably more in the beginning. It was management, finding the artists, building the artists, seeing it grow, and seeing it become superstars. Um, After that, it's more for me the film and TV stuff, because like my ex manager used to say, TV movies don't talk back, or you don't gotta hope that the movie don't believe you or unloyal to it, so you just shooting a movie and it comes out and that's just what it is. So I think my timing is perfect to pivot to the TV film world, still do music obviously, and help people. People come to me all the time, I'm trying to get a record deal, can you help me? And it ain't even the artists, it's just not just the artists, it's the industry as a whole. They've kind of screwed the game up a little bit to where it's just like, back in the day, you got an artist, like you said, Boys and Men. They walk in the room, they start singing, sign them. They're incredible. Who's your lawyer? Go. Now it's like, well, what's up with your Spotify? And your numbers are not there. And I'm like, but this is the next Beyonce. And you're telling me you don't want to sign her because she don't got, her social media game is not tight, which I think is backwards. I think they're trying to figure out how to go back to that. because that's when we had our superstars. You got to think about it. There's artists 25, 30 years, Beyonce almost, they're still here. Jay-Z's, the Marys, the Joes of the world. They're still 25, 30 years. Adina, 20, she's 32 years, still here, still SWV. So back then it was all about the talent and really being talented. And and that shows they're still here, they're still going number one. And now you got this microwave game where it's like, oh, your Spotify is doing great, sign it. And then, a couple of songs or albums later, they're gone. Here today, gone tomorrow. So I think the industry's starting to circle back to the real days of real artists, real talent.
Yeah, we had an amazing interview with her. I'm talking about Adina Howard. She was like, it was just a great interview. But one of the people asked a question, made a comment. They say, I'm embarrassed to tell you why I like your music. Because he's talking about, the way she looked, the way she was dancing, in that Freak Like Me video and all the, and the other stuff that was hot at that time. But she was an amazing lady. I think I interviewed her like twice so far. But
that was it. A lot of people told me that wasn't gonna work. I don't know why you shouldn't do it, Adina. That's not gonna work. A girl that's back then anyway, very over the top sexual conversations and very blunt with her sexuality. They like that ain't gonna work. And Mary J. Blige just came out last week with What's the 411. So you need to do something like that. So now I was like, maybe I am doing the wrong thing with her, and but then I said if I do Mary, then I'm copycat Mary, So I was like, what do I got to lose? So I did it, and here we are, 35 years for me, but 32 years for her, and now a bunch of Adina Howards are born, and Adina was born from me being a fan of R. Kelly, believe it or not. So my concept for her was a female R. Kelly, Black Madonna. Say like, where's the Madonna side? Well, what she wore on stage, she was dressed like half naked Madonna, and R. Kelly was the sex stories and the hood stories. If you listen to her album, everything wasn't sex either. It was like out of 12 songs, that might have been 6 songs about sexual conversations. The other records were real records, Renee and Angela. We redid You Don't Have to Cry from Renee and Angela. And her and this guy, Michael Speaks. Michael Speaks was back in the day. So there were real records on top of the sexual stuff. And we balanced it out. And that's why 32 years later, people are saying, man, I still went and bought that album again. I'm looking for the Dina album. I went and bought it again. A lot of men bought the album because of the poster, the artwork on the album. They like bent over the car with their butt cheeks hanging out. So a lot of men was like, I got that poster on my wall when I was young, but it worked. It worked. And I'm proud of that. And proud of her that she's still here touring.
The best poster I ever had was Lil' Kim.
Wow.
That was the most popular, because I'm in retail too, and they gave me a bunch of those posters. I was selling them. That was a hell of a poster.
And that was the thing. A lot of those girls were like, I didn't know you could say that on. Adina was kind of one of the first. And they were like, I didn't know you could say those kind of words on records. And then they just got real open with that. I don't know if you remember the record, Lil' Kim had Heather Hunter, F him in the butt. Like, what? What the heck? You went too far, but it worked. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So she was, I would say, the first from a rapper's perspective, and then Adina was the first from a R&B. But Adina also came from Betty Wright. The Betty Wright's bold and blunt. Millie Jackson, Betty Wright, R. Kelly's. That's what Adina was.
I had a chance. I was honored to interview Melody Thornton from the Pussycat Dolls, and I was so proud to see her on. It was like a UK show, like a Survivor type show, but it was UK of people. To see her actually on the beach surviving, just like on Survivor, where they got to find the food and build a shelter and all of that. I was just proud to see her on there, and she was one of the stronger people there. Other people that was leaving because they couldn't handle it. So it was just good to see her in that air, in that atmosphere of her being a strong woman. Because I remember, I think when I interviewed, I think she said she was 19 when she joined the group. She was the youngest person in the group, and just being the youngest one, and everybody was concentrating on Nicole. Everybody else was just dancers.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, that whole thing.
Pretty much.
So which song of theirs did you have something to do with?
Don't You by the
Oh,
Pussycat
that's what you said,
Dolls.
don't you? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, CeeLo Green.
Yeah.
Don't you wish your girlfriend? Big record. Big record.
He
CeeLo Green.
did something, like, for him to start off, in Atlanta with that group and then, do his own thing and then change his name and be like a rock star. That was something amazing.
Gnarls Barkley was huge for him. And then he did his own stuff. And then the Pussycat Dolls. They like, he did that? Like, a lot of people to this day don't even know he did that. But I'm like, you got to listen to the record. It's like, when she's singing, I know you like it. Got somebody clowning, I know you like it. That was CeeLo clowning in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote and produced that. Actually, I did it for another girl named Tori Alame or something, and she was independent, and the record was blowing up. Felly Fell from Power 106, that was his artist, and the record was blowing up big in the clubs, and then Jimmy Iovine got wind of it, and my understanding snatched it from him and offered more money and gave it to the Pussycat Dolls, and the rest is history.
Money rules the world.
Yeah.
Somebody put in the chat earlier, in the chat here on Zoom earlier, do you have any opportunities to sponsor shows with your liquor brand, or how can they contact you about getting sponsorship for like a call like this, like a Zoom call or radio station, promoting your liquor brand? What they
I responded back in the chat, possibly so, but I didn't know exactly what they wanted to do. I said possibly so. But yeah, we're always open to that. We're always open to that. Those opportunities. Yeah, she said, "Are there any sponsorship opportunities available for the liquor?" And I said, "Possibly so." And that was
okay.
It.
I messed that up. Multitasking. I see my friend John Wilson came in. John is the one that introduced me to the famous Joe Jackson, the Jackson clan, and I was able to work with him from 2003 to 2017. What's up, John? You got anything you want to ask Livio?
Oh, John! Oh my God, Sly Slick and Wicked. That's my guy, man. How you? Small world. Yep. Sly Slick and Wicked. John is John is a legend himself.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Livio? How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. Just doing this interview with my man. I'm in Kansas City. It was crazy. I was sitting there having dinner with my family because I always take them to dinner when I come to town to spend that time halfway here. They're like, "Yo, you got an interview?" I'm like, "Oh, man, I'm gonna pull this off." So Rustin ate and then jumped in the car and do the interview. So yeah, we made it happen.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, how you been, man? How's everything going with you guys?
We're good, man. We're real good, and moving on. And I wish I was in Kansas City with you right now. My uncle's there, and he'll turn 101 this year. So.
Wow. That's a good number.
But I came in, just come in a few minutes ago, and you were saying what you and I have had many talks, from over in the park with the Living Legends picnic. It's something. These artists, will sample us. Like for example, with Justin Timberlake's Suit and Tie or whatever. But then, when we go try to get a deal, we're not relevant.
Ain't that crazy?
I've never understood.
Yeah, that was a big record for Justin Timberlake,
Well, we're still going almost 9 million now, and then,
wow.
And then, J. Cole, samples it, Chain and Day, so that's another million seller. But again, you've done so much in the industry, and, you say 30 years. I've been in it 55 years now. And,
wow.
we're, as I say, you're still able to, draw crowds, but, when they sample us, like I think it was Patti LaBelle, she made an album, went to Universal, and they said she wasn't relevant.
Right. Still here.
Want to comment on that, bro?
She's still here, man. She's Patti LaBelle. I mean, like you said, it's nowhere around it. Like, look at SZA and Kendrick Lamar, #1 record in the country. This World Was Mine, Luther Vandross. It's nowhere around it. I mean, you could do all this new music all day, and people got to familiarize themselves. Like, I never heard this song before. But the cheap the cheat code is to take a classic record and sample it, and that it instantly gravitate, because like, oh, that's my joint right there. Did somebody sample that? So I would do a sample any day, but you gotta pay homage, because that's when it goes bad. You gotta pay homage, to where you got the sample from. You're doing an interview like, yo, this is originally from Sly Stick and Wicked, and and then people start researching who you guys are, and then they digging into the crates to try to find other samples that you might have had that people are not familiar with, which generates money for your pockets for years to come.
Right. And then, also what's deep out, you go outside the country, like over in England right now, you got, artists like Cleo Soul and Flo. Like I'm really happy because we're singing again, and they're singing straight up R&B. And so, I'm glad to see that happen. I'd like to see that float back into the United States, basically where it comes from.
Right. Right. You got it. Yeah, it's coming back. You got R&B. It's coming back. People are tired of and I have nothing against. I'm 61, but I still love listening to. I'm in the car today in KPRS in Kansas City. I'm listening to all this new age, new rap stuff and young, and I'm like, it still keeps you relevant, keep you on your toes, but ain't nothing like the '90s R&B or the '80s and '70s. Is like, you gotta go. In Kansas City, they're known for slow stuff. You go to a club in Kansas City or bar, they ain't playing no fast stuff. They playing all classic slow jams, and you're like, man, I remember that when I was a kid. Teddy Pendergrass and Radio, Ray Parker, and it's like, wow. So, but I'm telling my age, so but I try to educate the young people. You gotta dig deep. Go Google Sly Slick and Wicked. Go Google, and learn from, just snatch some stuff from that. You know what I'm saying?
And what, like, for example, you had Bloodstone for there, but what puts a smile on my face, Livio, is that, I go on YouTube and like I'll type you in or type us in, whatever, and you put reaction behind it. And now the world is now discovering this. So I remember I was listening to one reaction on I think it was a Blue Magic song. I think it was What's Come Over Me. And the girl, I guess she has late 20s and 30s. And she said, see there, how come this is why our mothers and fathers were married 20, 30, 40, 50 years and had 60 and 70 children. Listen to this music. And said, these guys are speaking to our, to the girl's soul, and that's what I love, that they're now discovering us again. They didn't really, I mean, you say some of them just knew about one record of Michael Jackson's or one record of, didn't know anything about the Temptations, or and now they're rediscovering and they're listening to us, and I made one reaction because the last time I played Kansas City, I played the Cool Jazz Festival there at the Kansas City Royal Stadium. Also, I played the Kemper there, and and that package was us, New Birth, the Dramatics, and the OJs. And they talk about, well, who was on the show with you, when you was touring like that, and we're still touring, after 55 years. So, that's what I'm. Wait, bro.
Somebody told me that all the Bloodstones passed away. The last one or something recently, like this.
Yeah. The brother with the high voice, I can't remember his name. Yeah, he passed away about three or 4 months ago. James Gaston out of Kansas City. The most recorded session drummer of all time. He's out of Kansas City there.
Wow, yes, a lot of people.
Larkin Arnold's out of Kansas City.
I did not know that. That's crazy. I didn't know that, man. There's a lot of greats. It was a jazz and blues city, man. Blues and jazz.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Look at them plaques on that wall back there, boy. I see you. So, look at them plaques back there behind you.
Well, Livio, I'm to the surface, man. Like Louis Armstrong said, 80 years old. I'm just beginning to learn about my horn. So, I mean, I'm proud to have, those awards back there, the Grammy and the Pop Music Award. But I'm still out there trying, like you, brother. We talked over in the park at the Living Legends picnic. You look around, and some of them, since then, you and I have seen each other gone.
Yeah, Yeah, man.
You know, we got to
Right.
tell the young people to keep us alive and keep us going.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you jumping on the interview. So I respect that. That's good.
Well,
Good. It's good.
I heard you was gonna be on. I had to get on. You know.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, tell your partner I said what up, man. We're gonna get back. I'll be back on top of the week, so definitely need to pick your brains and find out what's the next move with you guys and how to turn out for you guys and all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to it. Just let me know when you get in. You say let's, and I'll say go.
All right, my man. Appreciate you.
Yep. I'm always picking John's brain. He's like my music encyclopedia.
Oh, there you go.
I was watching something the other day. I think I sent it to John where Little Richard was talking about all the people that he made famous. John, did I see that link the other day?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think I got it, but Richard and I were very good friends. And one phrase I used to him, I always use that he said about maybe a couple of years before he passed. I said, Richard, when you gonna retire? He said, retire to what, John? You know, and he told me all kind of stories. I knew Richard about almost 40 years, and you call me an encyclopedia. He was one, you know.
Wow.
And and tell me, the people that he met, how he got started, even to who was even the cheapest guy on the road with them. I won't say who he was, but he said everybody else used to eat big dinners after a gig, but he would go in his room and eat Vienna sausages and crackers. But he's one of the greatest artists to ever live. But I ain't gonna say who he is. Livio,
right.
I'll tell you later. Kermit, I think that Richard, again, he was one of the nicest people and one of the greatest people I ever knew. He was always humble, always humble. I mean, he may seem like he was out there, but when you really sat down and talked to, he would literally give you the shirt off his back. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I really miss him a lot. And because of COVID, when he passed, they wouldn't let hardly anybody come. And Richard, Corinne, I don't know if you knew this, but his cousin lives in Cleveland, and he played behind me, and that's how I met Richard. Yeah. I'll tell this story right quick, and I don't want to take anything from Livio. We were on the road, and I never forgot to ask my keyboard player exactly what his last name was. So anyway, he said, my cousin's coming to the gig. I said, okay, fine. So he put his name on the, give him to the road manager. He said, I ain't got to do that, man. I said, well, you ain't got to do that. I said, man, put his name. He said, I don't have to do it. So about 5 minutes before we got ready to go on, I heard all this commotion, and I recognized that voice. I said, Ron, is that your cousin? I said, Pennyman is your last name, right? He said, yeah. It was Little Richard.
Wow.
1954. Right.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, you're talking about missing people, man. I think about Joe a lot. The time I spent with him and the things that I learned, things he said. I mean, you watch the movie, you see, what they show in the movie and what people say, in the media or whatever. But I guess the Joe I saw was a whole different Joe, and I guess that could happen because I was different when I was younger, so that could easily happen. But and I like when John always remind me, because I tell people like, yeah, when I would ask Joe, I said, was that movie real or was it accurate? And then John would share with me like one of the scenes that's not accurate, that's really horrible, where Joe got beat down real bad, but they didn't show it like that in the movie. But it's always good to know the behind the scene things. I remember I had lunch with Joe one day with the lady that did the Matrix, that wrote the Matrix, and Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Terminator movie, and she had to fight to get her money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before Livio fall asleep.
Oh no.
One thing, y'all, about Livio. Livio has been helping people get their royalties, and you want to expound on that, Livio?
Yes. Yeah. So I so like I said, with the publishing stuff, and then I hear all the stories, people, saying that, somebody took their publishing, or they stuck in a deal and they think they can't get out, but you can. There's ways to get out. So I do a lot of catalog deals, and with that, people like I want to do a catalog. I want to sell my catalog, but I can't because it's with one Chapel or it's with Sony. I'm like, no, there's ways around that. You can go back and negotiate out of that, or realize when you really dig deep. I'm sure John can attest to this. Dig deep and realize, like, this contract been over, or this this has been over, or there's ways we can get you out of this. So we do a lot of that as well. It's funny that I'm gonna go way, way back. I'm actually about to start doing a deal right now with the family of, well, I'm talking to them. We ain't doing nothing yet, but um uh what's the guy name, man? He did Oh Black Betty, Bam Lamb, Oh Black Betty, Bam Lamb. Old school blues, and a lot of the rock guys said it wasn't for him. It was Lead Belly. Lead Belly. So I don't know if you know who Lead Belly is. Lead Belly did all these, a lot of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger's, everybody. It wasn't for him, it wouldn't be us. They gave him his homage, but he passed away obviously. But I'm dealing with his nephew and trying to do those deals, and that's the thing. They realized that he had signed a lot of his stuff away, and they trying to get it back, and so they reeling it back in. But yeah, so I do a lot of that, try to help people, get their stuff back or their masters back, because it's some people don't know. They don't know. They just do the song, and 20 some years later, they don't realize, if you register in time, it reverts back to you. But some people miss that, because if you miss that deadline, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's educating people that, was it, what is John, 25 years?
Yeah.
30 years, 25. Yeah. So you got to do it ahead of time, though. If you wait till the deadline and it's over, you can't go back, and you just lost it. So it's a lot of people that don't know that. But yeah.
Right. I mean, we just lost Harry Elston, lead singer of the Friends of Distinction. He's the one that led I Can Dig It, He Can Dig It, She Can Dig It. And I was him, in fact, I was getting ready to refer him, collect his royalties, because when he did Grazing in the Grass, he still hadn't received. And he texted me that Thursday and he said, man, I was asking for my contract, and they say they can't find it conveniently,
Right.
and he said, I'll give you a call on Monday. And I was pulling the garage, and the guy said, hey man, I'm sorry to hear about Harry. And I'm stopping in my car. I said, Harry who? He said Harry had passed, and again, he was in the middle trying to collect his royalties, from all.
I had the same story with Angie Stone. Angie Stone was trying to sell her catalog. I was going ready to sell it for her, and then she says, "Hold that thought, man. I got to fix some stuff. It's a lot of stuff been going on." The lawyer that I had ended up saying he was my lawyer, but he ended up signing all my stuff over to him, and I didn't know, and so I got to try to get to the bottom of that. And before we could get to the bottom of it, she had a car crash and she passed away. And so that's kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? Same kind of story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And getting with the estates and everything. So, that's why, yourself and I try to educate these young artists, like James Brown said, show business, 10% show, 90% business, show business.
Right. That's real.
Yeah.
A lot of people focus on the business. The show, they don't care about the business until it's too late.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, how about the fact of people just being desperate and saying, get me a record deal, I'll do anything, and I get, and they let your mind just wander. Like, what do you mean anything?
Yeah, it's not what you sign up for. Like I said, as a kid, everybody goes to ballerina classes and all that and they finally move to Hollywood to be a star, and as they realize, it's not all of what it seems, and it's all the other extra stuff that comes with it, and that you didn't sign up for, like selling your soul and all that craziness. Like, what? I didn't sign up for that. I just want to sing. I just want to sing. That's it. And now you realize, like, no, it ain't that. You got to sell your soul. You got to do. It's like, what the hell did I? That's why I tell people, make sure this is what you want to do, because in the beginning it's all fun and all that, but somewhere along the way it gets clouded, and then you like, man, what did I just get myself into? I wish I would have been a plumber instead, Wish I would have been a real estate developer or something. So, but for some, for the successful, they're enjoying it, and then but everybody can't go for the ride. So,
let me give you
that's
a quick story about selling about people attempting to have you sell your soul. I started in the retail part, having my own store and stuff in 1975. And either late 79 or early 80, Warner Brothers paid for me to go to the very first Black Music Association, the conference that was in Philadelphia. It was in Philadelphia. The next one was in New Orleans the next year. And that's where I met Stevie Wonder. But anyway, in Philadelphia, I got a chance to walk to the corner store with, I can't think of his name now. He just died recently too, from Chicago. I think it was Jerry Butler. But anyway, so by them doing that, like flying me there, like I'm a young retailer, getting opportunity to, fly somewhere, all expenses paid, per diem, hotel, all that stuff, right? So anyway, so moving ahead, I was very cool with the people that did what was this damn label? I had to come back to it. But anyway, Warner Brothers, when I'll Be Sure came out, which I'm already, I was already cool with everybody at Uptown and all of that, right? And I'm trying to think of other record that was competing with it. They were competing for number one. And so I get a call from Warner Brothers, I'll Be Sure is number one. Oh, EPMD, You Got to Chill was the record in the album at the time. They say, right. That's the regional record. That's the regional record. We need you on this, this I'll Be Sure record. So we got back and forth, like two people arguing or whatever, right? So I'm saying, look, I got to tell you, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm an independent retailer. I'm always for the underdog and the independent. So, and people didn't know it, but I had like over 100 stores, including people like Royce Fortune and George Daniels as part of, my coalition too, called SIMS at the time, Successful Independent Music Merchandising Stores of America. And but it was like under the underground. They still had their own coalition in their particular areas, right? But anyway, so I said, I'm sorry, but I got to go with the EPMD. And they said, oh, well, it's not going to happen. Waste of time. This is a regional record. We're a national record. And guess what? EPMD went number one the first week, and of course we got I'll Be Sure number one the next week. But it was just show you, it's like I appreciate what they did, but I can't just sell my soul and just like not want to promote EPMD because they're a regional record, as they said, when I knew different, because I was, I'm in an area where hip hop was selling better anyway, in general. But right. That's just one example of not selling your soul, even when you're in the position of, I didn't know they could have, blackballed me after that, or not sent me no more records, or not did anything for me. But relationships there. That I know there's a lot of times people respect you sometimes when you do stuff like that. And even over the years, I worked with a lot of, people in different races and religions, like Italians, for example. And I had friends that borrowed money from them, $250,000 and all this kind of stuff. I never took one dime from anybody. And I think that's why people respect me. And I'm kind of still halfway around the day, because I did not take these offers that's like almost you accept the money and then you can't pay it back, or you lose it some kind of way and then you're in a bad position. So I just, I watch other people get in those bad positions, but that's just an example of not selling your soul. And believing in what you believe in. I actually looked up Lead Belly. I see where he wrote songs for people like even Franklin Roosevelt. He wrote a song about Adolf Hitler, Jean Harlow, Jack Johnson, Howard Hughes.
Yeah, he was so dope. He went to prison for attempted murder. Then he let him out. The governor let him out because he was so talented with the guitar and the blues and all that. Then he got pardoned. Then he went to jail again. Then he got pardoned again twice because he was so talented as a black musician. So he got a history, man. Lead Belly. I didn't know who he was until someone brought it to me. Like, man, I'm like, that's probably like a $200 million deal.
Yep.
200.
Well, see, he's in that category with Lead Belly and then Muddy Waters and that crowd. Little Walter. In fact, when you see the movie Cadillac Records, you'll see a scene where I think it was Muddy Waters took his guitar player and he ran in there and put the gun to Muddy Waters' head, and told him, don't ever take my guitar player, again. And he told the guitar player, if you ever go with somebody again, I was killing. I heard he had that edge, but when him and Elmo James, they talk about B.B. King, but Lowell Fulsom, his brother managed us. Robert Pete Folsom had us and Sam and Dave and Johnny Taylor when we first signed with Paramount. And again, Leadbelly is one of the greatest blues people that ever was, And again, for example, and you talking about royalties, like I said, how you've been helping people, get their royalties. The song "The Sea of Love," living in Cleveland, the guy who made it, his name was Phil Phillips. That was his record name, but his real name was Philip Baptiste. He had known me since I was like 8 years old. And when I started working for the Jacksons, I went to lunch one day outside the Motown building, and there he was standing there. And I said, "Oh, Mr. Baptiste, how you doing?" He says, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "What are you in town for?" He says, "Well, I'm here to, help my kids, get a deal." I said, "Mr. Baptiste, can I ask you a question?" And he said, "Well, what is?" I said, "The Sea of Love." I said, "How much money did you get?" Because they had just did a movie. The Honey Drippers had made it, and they just did a movie, The Sea of Love. This is about like 1985, 86. He said, "I got $5,000. And I said, "Mr. Baptiste, are you going to be around for a while?" And he said, "Yes." I said, BMI, this is when BMI was right up in the Motown building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I knew it was BMI had that, had the catalog. So I went upstairs and I asked a friend of mine, I said, "Do me a favor." I said, "Run me what has The Sea of Love made since 1954 until now," which was 1986. And he came back and it made over $50 million. All Mr. Baptiste saw was 5,000.
Damn.
Right. So I got him with somebody and they settled with him like a few million up front, and the rest, Mr. Baptiste passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. He was in his 90s. But, as the song say, all around the world, it's the same song.
Right.
What do you guys think about stuff like in the Why the Fools Fall in Love movie, where the guy at the record label guy, put himself down as a writer or whatever, and he wasn't a writer? What do y'all think about stuff like that? Either, but back in those days, not today, but back in those days.
I mean, it was common. I mean, that was common. Like I've had guys say, somebody sold, like the Cadillac record thing, bought your Cadillac, I own everything. It was like, what? Yeah, it's like back in them days, it was ruthless, man. I mean, lawyers, that was your lawyer, it was to go ahead and sign your shit over to them, or put their name as a fifth member, like Luke Pearlman. For this, a fifth member of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He was a fifth member. He got a check when they got a check. And he was managing them. So he's getting, I mean, not managing, but he was the label, but he was getting checks on top of checks and put himself down as a fifth member of Backstreet Boys, So, like, wow.
It ain't only back in the day we're dealing with that. Somebody put their name on our songs and you didn't have nothing to do with it. You weren't even in the room or even in the studio recorded it, And
a lot of cats feel like they just do it and they like, well, we're gonna ride this until we get caught. And sometimes it goes under the radar, they never get caught. And then when they do get caught, like, oh, my bad, I don't know who did that. But by then you'd already grabbed a couple $1 million out of it.
There was a big,
okay, I won't collect anymore. I'm done collecting, but you've already snatched a couple $1 million.
There was a big controversy, I think, around 2008. I remember started hearing about it, where they would, when they started doing the split sheets, or officially doing split sheets or something, and people would tell people, don't let nobody in your room, because you have stuff like situations like your homeboy, might say a word like, "Yeah, man, I was walking down the street," and then they take the walking down the street and turn it into like a hook or something, and then they want to get paid for it. So they say, "No, don't have nobody in your studio. Your homeboy sitting there smoking, drinking, or whatever. Just you being there by yourself. If not, it could easily be a problem where somebody just say something. Somebody could be eating popcorn, so this popcorn nasty, and you make a song and mention that the popcorn was nasty, and somebody want to get paid. So I just remember that, you know.
That's still going on. Still going on to this day.
In fact,
It was some kind of meme. It was like it was a meme on Facebook, I think it was, where you had like 40 people standing behind this writer. Was at the board. At the board, he had 40-something people behind him, and it was something to the effect of, you know, when you got a hit, #1 hit, and you got to split 27 cents with all these people behind you, because this person wrote this person wrote this person wrote a, and then by the time you add it all up, it's like, you split, it was crazy. It was like a funny meme they just did to say, #1 hit record sells 1 million copies, and you split it with 42 people in the room. So it kind of goes back to what you just said.
Well, actually, Joe Walsh said something like that too. I saw an interview on him not too long ago. He said, "You don't understand music today. You got one sentence, but you got 27 writers on it." And and then with me, I was working with Joe, and I was doing. I'm not going to name the artist, a major artist, and me and another guy was writing the song, and the guy was sitting drinking some wine behind us, right? So we did the song, finished it up. And then when I got back to the office that Monday, the secretary said, "Hey man, somebody want to see you." And the guy walked in. I said, "What's up, man?" He says, "What you gonna do about your song?" I said, "What you mean?" He said, "Man, you gonna include me on your song?" I said, "Well, me and him wrote it, man. What you talking about?" He said, "But I was sitting there." I said, "Yeah." And he says, and I was an inspiration. I said, "Man, you ain't said a word. You sitting there drinking that wine, man." He said, "What you gonna do?" And so Joe came in because it started to get heated. And this is what Joe said. He said, "Man, put him on the song, put him on the copyright, just don't record it. Never put it out." And that's what I did.
Wow.
The reason why I asked you that
Around.
question, the reason why I asked y'all that question was because I tell people, like, when I got into the putting out music side, on my small little label out of Cleveland, Ohio, I started in 1982. Matter of fact, it was Charm Warren was my partner back then, and she she went and ran Queen Latifah's label, and with Naughty by Nature, she was there with Naughty by Nature, and all them was popping off. But anyway, so this is back in '82, and then so in '86 I released my first record, which was just a remake of "Afraid the Masquerade Is Over" by David Porter. And so naturally, by being a remake, there wasn't no publishing involved for anybody. But I'm saying it because at that point in time, I tell people all the time, back in '86, it was like it was in the movie with Big Red. Where somebody asks you about publish, you put their behind over the balcony and give them your office hours. I mean, that was normal back then. Like you said earlier about Livio, about things that was normal. That was kind of normal back then. The artists shouldn't dare ask for no damn royalties. I mean, that's just what I saw. Maybe y'all saw something different.
No, definitely. That was the 70s, 60s, 50s. I mean, it goes back. So people are smart now. They're getting smarter. Businessmen are very smart now, and they're learning how to, what to look for, and they're not getting, it's a little harder to get them these days because they wised up. Somebody taught them, whether it's the manager or the father or whoever is like, nope, you're not signing that. So they kind of got better guidance these days than they did back then.
In your opinion, in 2025, does an artist need a record label, or can they just, or say if they have an investor where they can get out here and make some things happen and, still make money, or whatever? Do you think that can happen 2025 moving forward?
Yeah, I just talked to somebody earlier. I was like, some artist, she could be the next Beyonce. She's trying to get a record deal. Record companies being hard about it because her numbers ain't there. But I'm like, if you have a real money guy, billionaire, they trying to put it with this billionaire now. I'm like, think about it. You find a money guy, and labels now are outsourcing the Troy Marshalls of the world, the Ken Wilsons of the world, the Izzy Sanchez's of the world. So they're outsourcing people we know. So if I have an investor and I got the next Chris Brown, then I don't need a label. I'll go to Ken Wilson, or I'll go to Troy Marshall and say, here's the same money that you would normally get from Motown to make sure this record goes #1. or top 10 at least, and then I'll go to the PR and say, this is Beyonce's publicist. I'll pay you to make sure that this person's in all the trades and blogs that Beyonce's in or whatever, right? And then I'll go to the I'll go and get the right featured artist, whoever's hot right now. If it's Glorilla, put Glorilla on the record. And now I'm doing the same thing that the majors are doing. The difference is they got money and we don't. If you have money, you don't really need the machine, but that's the problem. People very talented, black, come from poor communities, poor neighborhoods, got super talent. They don't got no money. So now they're forced to take these deals, 85-15 or, these, 80-12, 80-10, 90-10 deals because they don't have the outlet of money. You have the money, you could do anything, just like movies. I'm doing movies now. I need money to do the movie. I got a liquor. I need money to market the liquor. If I had an investor, I could do the same thing with my movie as any other big dogs would do, and get it in the right theaters and pay my way, but most of us don't got the money. Man, I'm more talented than Michael Jackson and Beyonce put together, but I don't got the money to market myself. So I guess I'll just have to, keep throwing it up against the wall and hope that somebody come and discover me. And when they come to discover you, they're looking at numbers. Well, what's your Spotify numbers? Your Instagram, you need at least 100 and some thousand followers. And, if you don't have these particular numbers, they're not even going to look at you. Because they're looking for you to already have a fan base to, when they put the extra fuel on it, you're going to go. And they don't got to do no work. Back in the day, they would do all the work, artist development, teach you how to interview, teach you how to sit in an interview, teach you how to speak in an interview. They did all that artist development. They don't do that anymore. They just sign you, throw it out, put the fire behind it, let it do what it do. But if you have an investor, trust me, we all in this interview, this podcast right now, are very knowledgeable enough to know how to break an artist with money. If we have the money, we could make somebody Michael Jackson tomorrow. But it's about the money.
I tell people that all the time. Tell them all the time. I say, you don't need a record deal. Just go find you some money. I don't care where the hell it comes from. Because like I said, that's what everybody's doing. It's just a shame, that things are the way that they are. That you have to do with them. Let me ask you this question. And you probably can get if you probably would have $10 million for everybody that asks you this one question I ask you. When somebody say, somebody see you, say maybe Instagram or whatever, or say they saw this Zoom call. Yeah, man, I saw you on Zoom, on YouTube or whatever. I would really appreciate if you listen to my song and tell me what you think about it. How many times you hear that?
All day, every day. All day. And then they don't know how to play one song or two songs. They want to play all 120 songs they ever recorded. And I'm sitting there like, dude, I like my time is, but I'm humble. I listen and I'm like, man, that was a 2-hour meeting to listen to 200 songs. And it's just like, have a courtesy to people. Like even with demos, people, I learned that from Russell L.A. Reid, and Max Goose, it was like, people would send Max Goose 20 songs. And Max said he would get them songs and see all them songs, MP3s in his damn box. He just erased them. And it might have been the next Michael Jackson, but if you don't know how to respect it, just send me your best 2 to 3 songs to get me excited enough for me to ask you, do you have any more songs? You're being disrespectful. You want me to sit here and click this, wait for it to download, one song at a time, 20-some songs, dude, is disrespectful. So he said he would just delete it because you're being disrespectful. And so for my time. So I tell people, give me your best 2 to 3 records that you think is the most incredible songs in America. And let me be the judge and say, wow, these are incredible. You got some more? Now you got my attention. But don't they just BBD, please listen to my demo. Please listen to my demo. I have no problem with that because I do listen because I used to be in a group for sure. And other members of the group, people walk up to me, can I give you my CD? They take it 2 steps further, throw it in the trash. I will always keep those CDs and listen. because you never know who the next Michael Jackson, who's the next Beyonce in those CDs. If you throw it in trash, you don't know what it was. So I do listen. I listen to everything, but I just ask people, please just keep it to a minimum, man. Play me your best 2 or 3 records, and then let me get excited and be like, look, now I see what this is. Send me a few more, But but I do. You're right. I get every day. Hey, can I sing something for you? You got a minute? And I always be like, yeah, go ahead. But sometimes you're having dinner and you're eating. It's kind of like I'm sitting there eating I'm in a meeting with or having dinner with my family. Yeah, take my card and we can talk about it later. But yeah, you're right. But I guess I can't blame him. It's like, oh man, that's John. That's John from Sly and Slicker. This is my only chance to probably see him again. So I'm gonna run up and bum rush him right now because this is my opportunity. And he might like me. If I don't, I might have lost an opportunity. So I kind of get it, but it's his time and a place, I guess you could say.
And also too, I think what's lacking with these young artists is like, when you make a record, you got to have a direction, you know, a direction of how you want to go. Like you get, like you said, they'll send 20 or 30 songs. They're all over the place,
Yeah.
And you say, well, wait a minute, I can't, what you trying to do? And then the second thing you say, you want a record deal, what kind? Well, I want a record deal, but what kind? There's different kinds. What kind do you want?
I just had that conversation earlier. Somebody was like, yo, they're trying to do a record deal and 2 songs is EDM, two EDM. Other song is R&B and another song is Kendrick Lamar. And I'm like, dude, I'm after 2 months, I'm still kind of confused on what is his direction because I, I don't know where labels are going. These are different. These are 3 different labels. So I'm confused on which label should I go after because this is 3 different worlds in one CD or one demo. I mean, so you're right. It's like you gotta know your lane and know what you're trying to accomplish and get everybody open and keep it consistent and not all over the place. Now with Adina, it was a little bit of a gumbo, but it was still in the same family. It was freaky stuff, real stuff, still in the same family. It wasn't like freaky stuff, real stuff, R&B, and then all of a sudden I get a rock record on there, a pop, a EDM song on the album. It's like now I'm confused. I don't know what she is. She don't even know what she is. But you're right. You're right. It's about finding your craft. Look at Kendrick, consistent. Kendrick since record one, and he's still Kendrick.
I know a young man. I'm so glad you said everything you just said recently. I know a young man. He wants to. He's trying to get like his instrumentals on movies and stuff and TV shows. And he told me he has a catalog. I'm like, dude, don't nobody care about your catalog. I said, I know a couple of people, but let me pick one song that I like and just send it to somebody that I know and say, I'm picking this that I like, but if you want to hear something else, whatever, or like you say, 1, 2, or 3 at the most. And he think he can bundle up 20 or 30 songs in it to somebody. And I'm like, dude, that is, I don't know what music industry you think you're talking to or you're going to talk with. I mean, are there sync licensing companies that it take somebody sending them 20 songs and stuff like that? Or is that just plain crazy like what I'm thinking?
Nah, because you got to keep in mind with sync people, you think you the only one. They calling you and 30 other people for the song, for the movie, for one song. So they got 30 people that they reached out to, and you think you ain't the only one that they called that day. They got 30 other people they called to see who got lucky enough to get the record. So if 30 people are sending 10 songs, that's 300 songs. I ain't got time for that. I'm gonna listen to 300 songs. So you're right. You give them a couple and get them open, and then that's the key because you know if I got 30 people sending me 10 records, that's 300 songs. I would never get a chance to finish the soundtrack or even the sync opportunity. It's too many. And then I tell people too, with demos, people want to come in with 20, 30 songs. I'm like, dude, the record companies will listen to the first 2 to 3. And sometimes you blow your deal like that. I've had people come in the room and be like, first song, incredible. Oh my God, this is dope. Second song is better. Can I play another one? Okay, now it starts to drop. Oh man, this is terrible. Can I play you another one? Fourth song, worse. Fifth song, even worse. So now I'm like, okay, he lost his consistency. You had me at go, but now you want to show out and play me your whole damn life, and you lost me now. So I don't. It's not consistent after the third record. Everything started to go down, 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 not up. So then it makes me like, nah, I don't think I want to sign this because he lost me. He had me, but then you want to show out and play me his greatest hits, and the rest of the songs are weak. So I don't think I want to sign this dude because he's not consistent.
Let me ask you this: do you think that the media, play people of color in a different light when it comes to the negativity? And I'm sending it to somebody that we both respect, as far as Beyonce's dad. I remember, we read the Billboard magazine, and Matthew Knowles did this, he did that, $200 million over here, this, that, and other, and all that. And then they turn around and make it seem like he just a thief, in the media, whether it's true or not. If they say something wrong, they never go back and correct, like, oh, we apologize for calling you a thief. We find out later that you're not. That never happens.
Right.
But I'm just saying, do you think that we're painted in a different light as far as the negativity compared to other people that maybe they don't say it or whatever, kind of like how the president attacking the other party people, but if you attack him, it's wrong or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely gonna always be that. Ain't nothing changed since Jim Crow. It's the same game. It's like, we're gonna make this person disappear. The other side, okay, we're gonna teach them a lesson, but we ain't gonna make them disappear. With this side, like, oh, we're gonna destroy this person. We're gonna, oh man, this guy is the scum of the earth. He's the worst. It's like, dude, this other person did. So, I mean, prime example, the kid, they're like, no, I'm not racist at all, so don't get this wrong. White kid stabs a black dude. This is recently. You look at the news. White kid stabs a white dude, young white teen. He gets probation. Black kid 2 weeks ago on the football field got bum rushed by 3 white kids, and he stabbed one of the kids, and one of the kids actually accidentally died, but it was self-defense. They trying to get this dude life in prison. Like, come on, life in prison, and just self-defense. He stabbed one of the guys. They were trying to beat him, jump him, but this white kid did the same exact thing and got probation. So the media plays.
Well, I appreciate that, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. And actually, I saw a video earlier on Instagram where an Amazon driver drove over a woman and then went and checked on her and left the scene. And people said go ahead, John.
Comment on the movie thing. I scored 6 film, okay, and one of the things that the artist gets mixed up when they say he wants songs for film is that what's the difference between an underscore and what's the difference between a featured song? They get that mixed up. I mean, I'm a real conductor. I do real horns, real strings, and all that. And I would love to score a Star Trek or something like that, which is going to bring me to what we were just talking about. I knew the senior vice president to one of the major motion picture studios, and who happened to be basically, believe it or not, a Sly, Slick, and Wicked fan, right? And so I met him. He said, come onto the lot and see me. And I went there in the scene. I said, hey, man, I would love to score, a Batman or a Star Trek or something like that. And he says, well, let me tell you that you never will. He said, because you don't look the same. But he did refer me to somebody else. I ended up scoring their film. So that is a very real thing that we face that needs to be really broken. That what it really is to score a film or present a song for a film, the difference between an underscore and a featured song, that needs to be defined.
Right.
How about the thing we discussed on one Zoom call about the Justin Timberlake and the Janet Jackson thing, where the mistake at the Super Bowl, like, whose fault was it really? Are they trying to say that Janet wanted to show people her breasts or something, or or did Justin Timberlake just do too much? Because I saw the interview on Oprah Winfrey show, and Janet was saying, "Hey, we rehearsed it before and all of that." So no, that's not what I wanted to do. But she didn't want to say anything negative about Justin Timberlake. She just said, "No, that's not what I wanted to do," and we did rehearse it before. That's one perfect example of the media blaming Janet for the situation when she's not the one that pulled her clothes down. He did.
Right. Hello?
Okay, Livio, I'm not going to keep you all night. Appreciate it. Glad John jumped on here so we get a little more history out of here. I also want to recognize some other people that jumped in late. We have Cool TLC, that's a rap median, rapper and comedian. And we have Will the Power Gambler, that's also part of the Thursday show. Throwdown Thursday. And I said we got John's friend in here today, Brent Barlow. And we have the Queen in here tonight, Queen Karen G out of Washington, D.C., home
Nice to meet you guys.
DJ Cool. That just recently, his record recently went platinum last year, and he's getting a lot of attention. DJ Cool from back in the day. And that's some of the new people that popped in that I recognize, and definitely appreciate you. Anybody have anything quick to ask before we get out of here tonight that hadn't had a chance to say anything yet? Okay. Queen Ken, I respect you to say something.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks for joining in. Nice to definitely meet everybody.
Well, thanks again, Livio. I really appreciate it. And sorry to take you away from your dinner with your family.
Take care, Livio. Look to hear from you, bro.
Yep. So when I get back, top of the week.
All right. Appreciate you, sir. Have a good night. And I'll get back with you soon.
Yep. Thank you for the show and opportunity. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. See you next time.